Herzlich willkommen und hallo zurück auf der Gamescom Bühne. Dennis und ich begrüßen hier zwei fantastische Gäste, Arman und Paul. Und das sind Entwickler von Mount und Blade2 Bannerlords. Wir hatten sie letztes Jahr hier auf der Bühne schon mal zu Gast. Das ist ein sehr, sehr interessanter Titel. Er wird seit 2013 entwickelt, ist also schon lange in der Mache. Und ich weiß, dass es einen harten Kern gibt an Fans, die sehnsüchtig auf dieses Spiel warten und sich sicherlich über einen erneuten Blick auf den Titel freuen. And we're gonna talk in English now because you don't speak German, which is fine. You're from Turkey, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and we are very excited to have you guys back on stage. And I would say let's have a look on the newest version of your game that you brought for us.
So
I guess it's a work in progress.
Exactly.
Right?
So just like last year, we have 3 pre-made characters for Gamescom, but players will be able to create their own characters. And but now we're in a later stage of the game than last year. We'll be able to do some sieges, to capture some castles, to have bigger battles. So it's the characters went more mature in the game as well.
All right.
Okay. So, do you have a release date yet?
We have an early access release date, so
Okay.
we'll be going to early access in March next year.
Oh, that's great to hear. Yeah. Okay. So where do you, where can you play on Steam, or is it just your own platform?
Currently, it's scheduled for Steam for the beginning.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. That's the closest we can get to a release date, I guess, isn't it? Early access.
I guess so. I mean, our game is really, really like big and complicated. So
Yes.
we thought it would be better to instead of set a release date where we are basically saying that the game is finished as it is.
Yeah.
We are putting it still in early access. It will still be very playable, and pretty much everything will be working. So I mean, players will be able to find content for maybe hundreds of hours. But we thought that the game is so complex that it would be better if we get feedback from the players, because it's an open-ended game. There can be all different combinations of different things happening.
Yes.
We have like more than 40 cities, hundreds of villages and castles, and we'll need feedback from players to make sure that everything is balanced, everything is working, everything is clicking with each other, but the content will be there.
And I'm sure that everybody is looking forward to this pre-release date, this early access, because as I mentioned earlier, there are quite a lot of people who are looking forward to the release date. And your team is not like a huge team. You don't have like hundreds of persons. How many people are working on the game?
Currently we have almost like 90.
90? Okay, it's more than last year, isn't it? Or did you have 90 last year?
It is. I mean, we expand by, I don't know, like 15 people or 10 people.
Yeah,
each
okay.
year, so.
Oh, okay. So, Paul.
So what I did is one of our features is that you can get an army.
Yeah.
Our kingdom, Kingdom of Crusade, is at war with the Empire, which is kind of like the Byzantine Empire. And I gathered an army of multiple lords, and I will attack and besiege the castle now, together with them.
Okay.
And let's hope we can do it.
Okay. You can also see it over there, but if you can...
Kind of.
Kind of.
So this is our deployment phase, where you can decide where to put your siege machines. For example, I can put my siege tower on the left side.
As I learned from Game of Thrones, it's always best to expose your trebuchet right at the front without any protection.
I didn't build any siege machines since I wanted to be quick.
Okay.
Because what else can also happen is if I attack a castle somewhere, that the enemy will decide like, oh, it's like, what is he doing here? And sends another army and attacks me in front of the castle gates. And then I have a big problem because I'm cut off from my supply line here. It will be hard to fight a battle outside my territory. So I rather just attack the castle and have somewhere to stay. With the castle, you also get a village. They're both connected, so you have like some sort of like refuge.
So how much research did you guys do regarding the battle? Did you study historical battles, how they evolve on the battlefield?
Definitely. I mean, we are not historians by profession, but of course we are very much interested as amateurs, and we try to read as much as possible and get feedback from actual historians. So we are very much interested in like actual historical medieval battles and siege tactics and so forth. So we try to carry over as many of the ideas and mechanics into our game as possible. So the game is all about different kinds of interesting decisions. So for example, for a siege, you can try to go for an escalade right away, where you try to climb ladders, and of course you will lose most of your soldiers and it will be a bloodbath, but you will still be able to maybe capture the castle as soon as possible. So
This is what we can see right here.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
We're climbing the siege tower, and on the other side over there, they're climbing some ladders. We saw them earlier, and our battering ram is still on the way to the castle gate. And you can control all your troops by yourself, but for this battle I gave the control to the AI, because there's like little commanders in those small little sections of troops, which will make decisions on their own when to raise the ladders. They will time them, so that's quite useful in sieges, but also in normal battles. You can do that at any time.
So your fraction looks like the Mongols under Genghis Khan or something.
Exactly.
Like that, yeah?
We are more of we're very horse archer heavy. So actually, we as Crusade we shouldn't fight in castles so much. But if you got to capture it, you got to capture it. Right?
Yeah. And as a good officer, as a good leader, you should be first on the ladder.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
I was a bit late because I was showing stuff,
but I can understand. I always imagine it must be so frightening on a siege to be the one who has to climb the ladder first, because you know you die. Even there's no chance that you don't die, right?
How do you do that? I mean, you stand in front of the castle. Hey, you go first. No, you go first. I mean, you can't discuss this. How does this evolve? I can't imagine.
I think there is someone who just tells you to you
go up there.
But I would like accidentally stumble over a rock and fall, and my knee. But I'm coming. 1 second, I'm coming. Like football players do nowadays. I would like.
Yeah. You as well too.
So now. I died. Shit.
No, what?
Oh, man.
He just turned around and stabbed me. Oh no.
So what happens next?
What's right now? I can only look around, but as you can see, we're already fighting in front of the gatehouse. There was only a small garrison here, which makes it even more horrible that I died. I'm just wounded actually. I will come back, but you can die in game events.
Okay.
Our battering ram just went through here.
Is this game over for you then when you die?
Well, yes, but not like this. I'm just wounded right now.
Yeah, but
in a
if
battle
you actually die, I mean.
But if I actually die, I'm actually dead. But that's an option players can choose before or like while they play.
Yeah.
If they want to have death or not.
Okay.
So everyone can make a
if
decision.
you die, you can continue with someone in your family.
So you have like offspring, right?
Yes.
You can have
yes.
a son or a daughter. Yeah.
So you can. The game is not over, but you'll just.
But you need to reproduce first, right?
Yeah.
And how does that work?
You can now also have like siblings and such. So.
Okay.
You have a few lives left.
Okay.
You need to produce your offspring.
There's always a dumber brother, then, who can overtake the throne.
So I captured the castle, and now I'm looting what they had. They had some fish and grain, but also a lot of clothes from soldiers, and I can choose to put those on, of course, and on my companions. So at heart, it's still very much a role-play game. You play as one character with some companions, but outside of that, you have this whole kingdom structure, and now there will actually be a kingdom vote. Probably Armand can explain.
Yeah, it's a game. At its core, it's like it starts as an action game where you have to ride a horse, shoot arrows or whatever. But gradually, it kind of turns into a game where we are trying to take over the world and become, I don't know, the conqueror of kingdoms and realms. So it is like we want to put different levels of gameplay at every section. So you start on your own, and then you have a bunch of soldiers, and maybe, for example, when you enter a battle, you are assigned as let's say the leader of the cavalry, and then you have to maneuver the cavalry and try to make yourself useful. And then further down the line, you are the commander of the battlefield, and then you can order everyone around and set the battle tactics. So there are layers upon layers of gameplay, and we are trying to make sure that each layer is interesting and challenging for the players, and all your decisions are meaningful.
So you climb up the ladder while you play, and in the end you're like a bigger commander than you were in the beginning of the game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not like a scripted game where there's a story and you rise because of the story. It is that if you want to do that, you need to do it for yourself. So you need to actually like recruit all those soldiers. You need to, if you want to be the owner of a castle, you actually need to capture that castle first. So you can do all those things.
And if you got an army at your disposal, do you have to finance that army? Is there some kind of management aspect to have an army? Do they need food or something? Is this in the game too?
Exactly, yeah. That is. Yeah? Those are all in. So armies always march on their stomachs. So you need to always provide food and provide money for your soldiers, pay the wages, think about all the logistical problems. When you are inside the kingdom, you can also call other lords to your army, and then they will join, and they will of course provide money for their own soldiers. But in that case, we have a political capital kind of thing. We have political influence, and then you have limited amount of political influence, and you need to make sure that when you have an army, you need to conquer somewhere, because if you lose, then you will lose a lot of influence, and you won't be able to set up a new army.
All right. And what happens if you don't feed your army? Do they die, or do they just leave?
They first start to get demoralized and they leave, and with time they will also be wounded and dead.
All right. Interesting.
So right now I'm in a pretty big battle. After we captured the castle, the enemy got quite angry and sent like a huge army against me. They have way more men than we do. So,
but we have cavalry, right?
Yeah, we have some horse archers. There should be, they're back there actually.
They do have them as well, okay.
Doing some skirmishing,
okay,
trying to harass the enemy. And I have the real cavalry, the heavy cavalry with me right now. And the few infantry we have as a horse archer faction, they're trying to hold their ground against this huge line coming in. We're gonna get them now.
Yeah, through the flank, you can just ride them down. This is what the Mongols actually did. They were so maneuverable, so quick,
and
precise with their bows.
Exactly. And while this is all going on, my horse archers are still in their back lines over there, riding around and harassing their archers. So we can have an easy time against the infantry.
How do you keep the overview? I mean, for me, I don't know the game yet that well, but it looks a little bit confusion. I don't see a mini-map or something. How do you keep your army organized in the battle?
You learn to do it a little bit. I mean, especially it was a conscious decision not to provide a map, and we want to. The personal feeling of not playing the game from a God's eye perspective, but actually being a single person is very important, and what makes the game more immersive and interesting.
Yeah, and more realistic, yeah.
And we wanted to keep that. So if you want to, for example, have a good bird's eye view, then you want to find a hill or something, and then make sure that you are on the top of that hill. If you are just lower there, then you won't be able to see anything.
Yeah. I like that very much, because you're really forced to think what is best for me, what would I... So you do the strategic thinking like a real general would, and you have to prove yourself as a general, as a warlord, and I really do like that.
So yeah, I exactly did what was suggested and put my archers on the hill with the infantry in between and charged my cavalry in. We already defeated most of the infantry, so there's a lot of crossbowmen and archers left on the Byzantine or the Empire side.
Is there a point in the battle where they panic, where when you crush the enemy, that they actually start running and not fighting anymore, or do they fight until the last man?
Yeah, definitely, they do panic. If we have a morale system, so for example, more experienced soldiers panic less, and like peasants or whatever, they are really prone to panicking. And when a side gets too many casualties without inflicting any, then they start to become stressed, and then they can run away.
Is there a possibility to raise morale during the fight, or do you have to keep the morale up before the fight in your management?
Both are possible. When your side is gaining an upper hand, your soldiers gain morale. Also, this is also like an RPG game, so you have your character skills and your companions have their skills, and some of their skills also contribute to morale. So,
right. So it's getting easier the more you progress.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. So if you can rise to a general or a big war leader in the game, where do you start? Are you like some kind of pawn or something, or are you actually already somebody from the upper class or something? Is there a background story of the character? Is he rising up from down below or something?
As a player, you can pretty much select your background.
Yeah. Are there difference to choose from?
Yeah. It's like there's a character creation system where you just select between different options and make your path. And at the very beginning, you basically have almost nothing. You have a very simple weapon and just yourself.
Okay.
So you have to grow in the world and become powerful.
But is it a game where you like choose to be an archer in the beginning, and for the rest of the game you are like stuck with being an archer, or is it like more open and you can do whatever you want, and if you choose to be a sword fighter and start fighting with a sword more and more, you get better with that? How does it work?
It's a mixture of the two. So the character system is such that you have different attributes, and for example, a character who has good melee attributes can basically learn melee skills very quickly. So for example, if you practice one-handed swords, you will get extremely good with one-handed swords. If you then switch to two-handed, then you will learn that as well. But for example, trade will develop very slowly because you don't have you didn't put the attribute points to that. Whereas, for example, if your character has very low attribute points for melee, but has great in intelligence and social skills, then you will be able to develop very quickly on trade. So every time you buy and sell things, you will be gaining or make a profit. You will be gaining experience point, and your skill with trade will increase.
Yeah, and you told that if you die and you choose to, you can play as a relative, a sibling or something like that. How does that work then? Is this like a random class with random skills, or do you have then the choice to select the skills beforehand?
You will be basically you have to in a way customize that beforehand. So for example, if you have a child, you will have opportunities in the gameplay to select different choices. So for example, my child, I don't know.
There's a random event, your kid, something happened, you choose, and he develops.
Something like that. And you will be able to develop your child into different ways.
Okay.
And then when you, of course, take him or her over, then you are stuck with them.
And is there a children cap in the game? How many children can I get at max? And how do I get them?
The children cap. I don't know.
Genghis Khan had like 1 million, I guess.
Yeah, I think there are.
So since we're playing as Khan, I think should be 1 million should be the cap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a legit question.
And then you have like an army just made of your children, like they're all tiny, like 1 meter only, but they're strong.
Yeah, as strong as you.
Yeah.
No, it's kind of, but I mean that. How do you reproduce in the game? How do you get a kid in the game? Do you have to like talk to women or something? Do you have to get married, or how does it work?
Currently, we only have the marriage route implemented, so maybe we'll add more in the future. But once you are married in the game, then you just, I don't know, spend time in the same physical location with your wife, and then children just pop up. So it's
like in reality.
Yeah.
All right.
But are you planning on implementing a system where you can marry a foe's daughter or something like that to unite two kingdoms to prevent a war and then actually gaining more power via marriage?
Yeah, definitely. Like marriage has an important role in politics. So your relation with other noble houses is very important. So, for example, when a new castle is captured by a kingdom, the kingdom has something like a vote where they decide who that goes to. And then, for example, if different noble houses support you there, then there's a greater chance that you will be able to take that. And of course, if you are married to another noble house, you'll have better relations and they will be more likely to support you.
Very, very complex. So you can decide on how you want to raise your power. The different ways, not only on the battlefield, but politics as well. Okay, so what is happening right now? We are in a town, or what is it?
Yes, we kind of came back from our campaign with our big army of lords, and right now we are recovering. I sold all the stuff I plundered in the city. I gained some money, so I'm in the tavern hiring a new companion and probably some mercenaries. And we will just replenish and then go back in again. Oh, what is he doing? So we can have like another battle maybe or something like this.
And how does time progress? Usually war like takes a little time and stuff. It looks like you just step into the next war. How many days have gone past since you just fought that battle? Is there some time of quick progression?
We played for like 5 days now.
Okay, 5 in-game days, right?
5 in-game.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, in-game. And I will actually sell some of my prisoners, and we also captured a lord from the enemy. So maybe we can have the audience decide if we want to release or kill him.
Come on, we're not ISIS or anything. In the game, I mean, we have a system where you can capture an enemy lord, and then there are different options. So, for example, you can ransom the enemy lord and get a lot of money because they have a very high ransom amount. Then you will get a lot of money, but of course the enemy lord can then go back and raise another army and come at you again. Another option is trying to keep the lord indefinitely in prison, but then there's a chance that they will run away. A third option is to execute them, but that has in-game consequences because just like medieval times, like the nobles didn't really like the idea of their own kind to be like executed every now and then because that would lead to some bloodbath. So when you do that, you are actually being very unorthodox, and then you will lose relation with different lords, and you will be seen as some kind of a butcher and outcast. But you can do that.
Yeah, that's cool. That's pretty much every option that there was, right?
Yeah.
Those 3 kinds of options.
Is it dark right now, or am I...
Yes.
Okay, so that's the day-night cycle.
Exactly.
All right.
You can see the time of day down here, so it also makes sense to attack at certain times depending on your army compositions.
Are they bandits or what is it?
Yes, those are looters. So when I attack at night, my archers will be less effective because they can't see that far. So there's like some tactical decision behind it. So, for example, I want to fight at day because I have a lot of horse archers. I have a lot of infantry archers, so I don't want to give the enemy an edge with attacking at night.
Sure, yeah.
And your army size is very important. The bigger your army, the slower it moves, just like in real life, because they have to organize and everyone has to wait for each other and everything. So sometimes it is better to go with a small expedition force and cause mayhem, and sometimes it's better to have like a big army and join everyone together.
But since you're only playing one character, you only can have one army, or can you split them and have 2 armies at once?
Your kingdom can have many armies,
yes?
But then you are only controlling one character, and then you will only be seeing one army. So that other army, for example, it can go and do something stupid and get all killed. and you won't be able to do anything about it. So
all right,
you
all
will
right.
just receive the news that your other army has been crushed.
Okay, but can you choose to switch the army then?
No, you,
No?
you are
Just-
whatever character you are playing, so you cannot.
Ah, yeah, sure. Okay, makes no
do
sense.
anything else.
Okay.
So we are besieging a town right now, and before I went in, I built some siege engines. What you can do on a campaign map with them is you can bombard the enemy city and maybe even create a breach in their walls. But that also exposes you, as I mentioned earlier, from armies coming in or even the garrison settling out and attacking you while you're preparing. So sometimes it makes sense to attack a castle really quick or a city, but then you have a big disadvantage of you having to climb the walls with a ladder or something and be very exposed.
And how about a siege? Can you just lay a city under siege, never attack, and starve them out?
Yeah, you can do that.
Possible?
If they run out of food, you can also see the enemy's food, and they are also consuming
okay.
food at a generally faster pace because they have to feed the civilians as well. They will run out of food, and their soldiers are going to get wounded and killed with time because they are hungry, starving basically.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then if you wait long enough, then you can just take it without fighting.
Which would you prefer? Starving them out or fighting them on the first day?
Currently, in the game's current balance, for example, when you attack, we generally lose pretty much almost 1-to-1 with enemy defenders and
Yeah.
our soldiers. Sometimes a little bit more, 1-to-1.5. So it depends on how many casualties you are happy with. So if you think that you can spare to lose, let's say, 300-400 soldiers, you can
okay.
attack. If you think that, I mean, these soldiers are very valuable and you cannot replace them, so they should die,
okay.
you should wait.
And is it desirable to have them starved out because the city will stay intact or something, and the citizens might stay intact, so you might use them for labor?
Currently, even if you attack, you can choose to not loot the city, and that will cost you a little bit morale penalty, but that's possible. If they just give in, then of course you take the city intact, and it's
Okay.
much better.
Okay, so it's got its advantages.
Okay, guys. So we're running out of time. So we won't see a winner of this bloody battle here. But thank you very much that you came again and that you brought your new version of the game. I'm very much in love with it, and I think there are many people who really are in love with it too. So thank you very much for being here. See you next year, I hope. Yeah.
With another game. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no. With I don't know, with the pre. When is the early access again?
It was in March. It's going
March,
to be in
okay.
March.
Next year in March. Okay. Wir machen jetzt weiter mit Wirt und Gregor und die spielen Dragon Ball Z. Ich glaube, eine kurze kleine Werbeunterbrechung gibt es davor noch. Und dann geht es hier live weiter von der Gamescom. Die beiden Jungs sitzen da schon und freuen sich sehr auf Dragon Ball. Wir sehen uns später. Bis gleich.